Okay, here's a letter to Dr. Crosby in 1984 from a guy who's a voodoo priest in Chicago.
Really?
It says, in 1948, Sangodina Ifatunji was born Carl Morrison in the heart of America, over 400 years after his ancestors were forced to stop worshiping their traditional gods and practicing their religion. After an average African American childhood, growing up in ignorance of the past, he was admitted to San Jose State University to study theater and black studies. From there, he went to the University of Massachusetts to work with the Pan-African Institute of Culture while completing an MFA in playwriting and directing. It was during Mr. Ifatunji's college career that he came to know of his people's history and their dilemma in America. The plays he wrote and directed reflected this newfound knowledge, and the research he did on traditional African theater forms brought him face to face with the religion of his ancestors. Having been introduced to Orisha and ancestor worship through books and intellectual discourse, it was fully 10 years later before he found a way to actually practice his traditional religion. In 1980, after teaching at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and then Illinois State University, and after working as a managing and artistic director for Chicago's most outstanding black theater, the Lamont Zeno, he met his wife, Adekola Adedapo, who showed him how to establish an ancestor altar in his home. Through her, he was introduced to H.R.H. Oba Ofuntola Osemjaman Adelabu Adefumi, the founder of both the African American Orisha Voodoo priesthood in America and the African village of Oyotunji in South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I met some of their people there.
Okay, in South Carolina?
South Carolina has a whole Yoruba village there.
Huh.
It's been going on for years.
Yeah, well, this was 1984, so a long time.
They came here to Kent State, some member, and they came into ACE, and they kept, they wanted me to come and live there.
Ah. In 1983, Mr. Ifatunji was initiated into the African priesthood and the cult of Sango, his patron Orisha. 1 year later, he founded the Sango Temple of Chicago, dedicated to Orisha voodoo worship and the proliferation of African culture. He's currently serving the Orisha voodoo community in the Chicago metropolitan area, writing a new play about Urunmila, the Yoruba god of destiny, and lecturing on the rise of African traditional religion in America.
Amazing.
So he's trying to promote his play to Dr. Crosby. His writing, he gave the outline of the play.
Yeah, the word voodoo kind of have a bad connotation. I don't know why he's using the word voodoo. Voodoo actually had started in Benin. Where, what's the name of the country? Used to be
Dahomey?
Dahomey. Started in Dahomey, and it had a different reflections of what they do. When I was in Brazil, the high priestess that I worked with, used to tell me there is vibration. She talked about vibrations of different aspects of African religion. And some had some difficult vibrations, some have more resonance. And I was surprised at that, that she was, she was surprised at that. And she was talking about vibration positiva and vibration negativa, different vibrations. Because I was studying the African religion practices, and I went to a lot of candomblé houses, including Eshu, and so there was kind of very interesting kind of differentiation of ideas and thoughts in the practice of African religion that came out originally from Dahomey.
Mm-hmm.
But each other country have their own, you know,
Yes.
like Yoruba religion is, I don't think they use the word worship like we do now. It's not a worship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like ancient Egyptian. I don't think they worship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a motion of enlightenment.
Enlightenment.
Rather than worship.
So is it more like being in communion with those spirits that can give you information that you can't get otherwise? Or
Well,
is it information or understanding, depth of understanding?
yeah, understanding, to be enlightened about life, I think, different facets of it. And there were different facets, you know, of of visions of life itself. Like some people would say, like the cat, Bubastit is a goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And the ancient Egyptian had a ceremony for the cat,
Mm-hmm.
big ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not an idea. They actually, the way they looked at it, that the cat perception of life
Mm-hmm.
is a cat perception.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as a human, I learn from that perception.
Mm-hmm.
That when I treat that between me and you, we have different perceptions,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to recognize the perception. So when they had the cat, is the recognizing, is honoring the perception of a cat, which is different than human.
Mm-hmm.
To expand your mind, basically.
To me, it makes sense that if you're revering an ancestor or a spirit
Yeah,
who was before you,
exactly. Yeah.
that they would have a perspective that would be valuable to you. If you
Exactly.
can tap into it,
Tap
then
into it would be valuable.
it would be valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that there's a very logical
Mm-hmm.
reason for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, like expanding your knowledge
Right.
of the diversity of
Yeah.
humans' diversities.
Especially if spirits go back to the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you would want to know them, right?
Yeah.
If they're there before every human being, then that's very valuable knowledge.
Yeah.
It makes you more powerful than other people.
Mhm.
Also, I mean, if you look at it from a power perspective, it's not just enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
but there's power in enlightenment. Mm-hmm.
Or enlightenment, yeah. Well,
I'm sure different people do it for different reasons.
yeah, different, but everybody's think the thought is very powerful,
Mhm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Did Brendan go already? Or he's down
No,
there?
he's downstairs.
Yeah.
So, here's the program notes. It says, and this might be too small for you to see, I'm not sure. It says, mask, ritual, and dance is the result of the activities of the fall semester 3 African classes offered at the School of Music. These are African music and cultures, African music and dance, and chamber music African. Were you in charge of all 3 of those classes at some time?
Yeah, we did chamber music, we did mask, dance, yeah.
Oh, the first part of the program deals with traditional African drumming thanks to the assistantship of the accomplished drummer Adesanya Adeyeye.
Yeah, it's quite a character, Adesanya.
Really?
I liked him a lot.
So you were from where?
He's a Yoruba.
Yoruba from
And my
Nigeria.
assistant was a Yoruba.
Mm-hmm.
Taiwo Bunade. Yeah, they're quite different. He knows Taiwo. Taiwo's an older guy,
Mm-hmm.
but Taiwo knew the depths